The metal tray hit the table with a sharp clang, making Anna Keller flinch. 4 meatballs rolled slightly, before settling in a pool of thick red sauce, spread over a mountain of pale noodles twisted into shapes she'd never seen. Camp Swift, Texas. December 1945. The mess hall smelled like garlic, oregano, and something that almost made her dizzy, real meat. Not scraps, not substitute fat or sawdust filler, actual beef. Anna stared at her tray like it might disappear if she blinked too hard. Behind her, rows of German women in gray prison dresses shuffled forward in line, whispering in low voices that carried both fear and hunger. The American guard, Binom barely out of high school, with sandy hair and a slow Texas drawl, pointed at her plate. "That's meatballs and spaghetti." "Ma'am," he said it casually like it was the most ordinary thing in the world, like this much food for a prisoner made perfect sense. Anna's fingers trembled as she picked up the fork. She was 28. She'd lived through Berlin's firestorms, patched together soldiers' hands with newspaper when bandages ran out, watched her mother trade her wedding ring for bread that was half sawdust. Her ration card in Germany barely promised 1,200 calories. If there was food, if the shelves weren't bombed, if some officer didn't take the better portion first, and here she was, staring at 2,000 calories sitting right in front of her. Beside her sat Greta, a former Luftwaffe officer, sharp-faced and composed even in captivity. She leaned closer. "Did they bring us the officer's meal by mistake?" Anna didn't answer. She cut into one meatball. Steam rose like it carried a secret. The meat fell apart easily, soft, juicy, smelling faintly of garlic and pepper. Real beef, not horse meat. Not rat stew. Not the chemical sausages they used to get back in the hospitals. This was something she hadn't tasted since 1942, her family's Christmas goose. The year before the collapse had been her neighbor's cat. They'd called it goose just to make it easier to swallow. The fork hovered halfway to her mouth when something inside her cracked. The sob came fast, deep, the kind that had been buried under ash and fear and orders shouted in smoke. Her shoulders trembled, the fork clattered onto the tray, and then she cried. Not quiet tears, but the kind that make your chest convulse, the kind that tear through years of numbness. Around her, the entire mess hall froze. Fork stopped moving. Conversations cut off mid-bite. A black man in a cook's apron appeared beside her, worry etched across his face. His tag said Sergeant Davis. "Something wrong with the food, miss." Anna tried to speak, but only managed a choked sound. "Ma'am, you okay? You allergic or something?" He looked genuinely concerned, like he thought he might have poisoned her by accident. She finally found words between gasps. It's beef." Davis blinked. "Yeah, it's Tuesday. We do Italian on Tuesdays." Italian on Tuesdays, he said it like a joke. Like the idea of alternating cuisines for prisoners wasn't absurd. Anna looked up, eyes shining with tears. "In Germany. We haven't seen beef in 3 years." Something in Davis's face shifted, not pity but recognition. He nodded slowly and offered her a folded handkerchief. "I know, ma'am," he said softly. "I know." Across the room, the other women were staring at their plates now, really seeing them. The portions, the sauce, the softness of white bread beside the tray. Greta had gone pale. Someone dropped a tray, the sound ringing like a gunshot. Then one by one, the sobbing spread within seconds. The mess hall filled with quiet, broken cries. 200 women, crying into bowls of spaghetti and meatballs while confused American guards looked around, not sure what they'd done wrong. Anna picked her fork back up. Her hand still shook, but she took a bite. The flavor hit her like memory, like the Germany that existed before ration cards, before her mother's eyes went hollow, before the word sacrifice lost its meaning. She chewed slowly. Swallowed. It tasted like everything she'd lost. Around her, the crying didn't stop. Some women prayed under their breath. Others just stared at the food as if it might vanish. Sergeant Davis still stood nearby, awkward and kind. "You want seconds?" he asked finally. "We got plenty. We got plenty." 3 words that didn't exist back home. Anna nodded, unable to speak. Davis took her tray and returned with 2 more meatballs, steaming and perfect. No one rushed the women. No one told them to eat faster. The Americans just let them cry. For 20 minutes, the sound of sobbing and the clinking of forks filled the hall. The Texas sunlight slanted through the dusty windows, hitting the red sauce so it glowed like something sacred. That night, lying in her bunk, Anna stared at the ceiling. Her stomach was full, and actually full, for the first time in years. The sensation felt almost sinful. What else, she wondered, had they been wrong about? If Americans could feed their prisoners better than Germany fed its soldiers, what else had been a lie? She closed her eyes, tasting beef and salt and guilt, and somewhere deep inside something began to break. Not from hunger this time, but from realization. The mess hall stayed hushed long after the tears dried. Trays scraped, boots shuffled. Near the stoves, a ladle tapped a pot like a bell. Anna ate slow, breathing between bites, afraid the meat would turn to smoke if she hurried. Greta sat beside her, stiff and careful, chewing like she had to learn again. Neither talked. Sergeant Davis hovered, pretending to wipe a clean patch with his towel. He didn't push. He stayed close, a porch light left on. When the line thinned, he set down a basket with 2 thick slices of white bread. "If you want it," he said. No rush. The bread looked dangerous, soft, wasteful, holy. Anna tore a corner and let it sit on her tongue. It went sweet like candy. Around them, guards tried to act normal and failed. A freckled kid whispered, "I don't get it," and another shushed him. The stove hissed. Sun slid across dusty windows. Anna finished. Not clean your plate finished, full finished. She set the fork down like a tool and watched sauce shine on the tin. Greta nudged her. "You okay?" Anna nodded, then shook her head, then let out one brittle laugh. "I don't know how to be okay," she said. "Not yet." They carried trays to the return window. Davis met them. "Y'all need anything else?" The way he said y'all felt warm. Anna shook her head. Greta said, "Thank you, Sergeant," formal as parade talk. Davis tipped his chin. "Get some rest," he said. Coffee at dawn. Outside, the air tasted like dust and sun. The parade ground ran flat and brown. 2 guards tossed a baseball. Anna watched the white arc. Such a small sound, and somehow it cracked her more than the meal. Back in the barracks, women lowered onto bunks like old hinges. Talk came in small bursts, calories, ration cards, the last time anyone saw real milk. A girl from Hamburg whispered her brother ate rats. Another traded winter shoes for turnips. Just puzzle pieces set down, the picture changing. Greta sat on her bunk, boots planted. "They said Americans were soft," she murmured. "They said comfort makes you weak." She rubbed a loose thread. That sauce didn't taste weak. Anna stared at the ceiling. A nail head gleamed like a dead star. "We were told a lot," she said. "Some lies went down easier than truth." She saw the hospital. Thin broth, blue lips, boys gripping her hand like a dock rope. "If prisoners eat like this," she whispered, "what did their soldiers eat?" Lights out came early. Texas evening fell fast, warm, then cold. Outside, a radio scratched a swing tune. Laughter rose. The sound felt foreign. Anna curled on her side. Her stomach was full and guilty at once. She pressed her knuckles to her mouth. Rain tapped the roof before dawn. The barracks smelled like wet wood and soap. Anna dreamed of red sauce and woke with pepper on her tongue and a quiet in her chest. Not peace, but the idea of it. Greta was lacing boots. "Coffee?" she asked. Davis said dawn. Gray morning met them. The kitchen crew moved steady. A big urn breathed steam. Davis poured tin cups and slid them over. The coffee bit, but it was hot and real. Anna wrapped both hands around the heat. "Thank you," she said. He nodded. Behind him hung a chalkboard list. Monday, chili. Tuesday, Italian. Wednesday, meatloaf. Thursday, roast chicken. Friday, fish. Saturday, chili. Sunday, pot roast. Anna stared like it was a holy calendar. For prisoners. Greta breathed out something half prayer, half curse. They took their cups outside. The sky brightened. A supply truck rattled in, bed stacked with sacks, crates, and a barrel marked molasses. The driver hopped down, whistling, and waved at the morning. Another truck came, then a third. "You see that?" Greta said. 3 trucks before breakfast. She sipped, made a face, kept drinking. Back home, 1 wagon of potatoes vanished in an hour. A fat cat patrolled the fence rail like it was on duty. It looked like it never missed a meal. Anna snorted. Greta raised an eyebrow. "What?" Anna shook her head. "Nothing, just everything." During work detail, Anna sorted medical records in an office that smelled like paper and typewriter oil. The clerk hummed. He glanced up, pointed at her bent glasses wired at the bridge. Those holding? Mostly, she said. He nodded. By noon the camp had exhaled. The women walked a little straighter. No big smiles, but the hard edges softened. Whispers floated, maybe we'll be okay. Maybe not hungry tonight, not hope. Not despair, the road between. That afternoon, Davis passed Anna and pointed at the sky. Cold front later. Wear your coat, he said like a neighbor. Yes, Sergeant, she answered. Dusk slid in. A church bell from town carried thin across the fields. Anna stood by the steps and listened. She let the sound tie her to the ground. The day had fed her and undone her. Both were true. Inside, Greta wrote with a chewed pencil. To who? Anna asked. To myself, Greta said. So I remembered today. What did we learn? Anna asked. Greta didn't look up. That plenty isn't luck, she said. It's a system. Anna watched the room settle. Somewhere far off, a train horn called once and was gone. Tomorrow would bring something else. Something sweet, maybe. Something that would make them learn all over again, for sure. Christmas morning came soft and strange. No gunfire, no sirens. Just the rustle of boots on the barracks floor and the faint smell of cinnamon drifting in from the mess hall. The women rose slow, unsure if it was real or some new drill. When the door creaked open, 2 American guards stepped inside, both smiling like kids carrying a secret. Each held a cardboard box, the kind used for rations or mail. Merry Christmas, ladies, one of them said, his accent thick Oklahoma. He started down the rows, handing each woman a small, foil-wrapped rectangle. No ceremony, no speech, just a bar of chocolate pressed into each palm. Anna turned the silver package over in her hand. Her fingers shook. It crinkled like magic. She hadn't held anything this precious since before the war. Greta, sitting on the next bunk, squinted at hers. What is it? Chocolate, Anna whispered, her voice trembling. The smell hit first when she peeled back the foil. Cocoa, sweet and rich, cutting straight through 5 years of smoke and dust. The piece inside was smooth and brown, not gray and crumbly like the substitute chocolate back home. That German stuff had tasted like beetroot and chalk. This looked alive. She broke off a square. It melted instantly on her tongue. Milk, sugar, real cocoa butter. She swallowed and felt her throat tighten. Oh God, she whispered, covering her mouth. Tears burned behind her eyes. Around the room, other women had started to taste theirs too. The reaction was the same. Silence first, then trembling, then the slow collapse of composure. It spread like the meal had, one voice at a time. Some laughed. Some sobbed. Greta didn't cry. She stared at the chocolate like she was trying to solve a puzzle. Where is their ration card? She muttered in English. For sugar, for cocoa? Anna looked up. They don't have ration cards anymore. Greta frowned like that couldn't be true. She stood abruptly and walked to the guard station at the end of the room. The younger guard looked up from a magazine. Life with a smiling family on the cover, a Christmas tree stacked with presents underneath. Excuse me, Greta said carefully. Your ration cards. Where are they? The guard blinked. Ma'am? For chocolate, she said, holding up the bar. For sugar. For milk. He laughed. Not mean, just surprised. Ain't no ration cards, ma'am. War's over. Greta's eyes narrowed. Over? He nodded. Yes, ma'am. Sugar rationing ended last month. Butter before that. He flipped a page in his magazine. Stores got plenty again. My mom says the grocery lines are finally back to normal. Greta swayed where she stood. Normal, she repeated softly. The guard looked concerned. You all right, ma'am? She didn't answer. She turned and walked back to the bunk, sat down slowly and stared at the chocolate bar in her hand. A nickel, she whispered. Anna tilted her head. What? He said it costs a nickel, Greta said, her voice hollow. You can buy this at a gas station. The words hit the room like a shell. Women looked up from their bunks, eyes wide. One of them, a young radio operator from Hamburg named Lena, still had chocolate on her teeth. A gas station, she repeated. Greta gave a small, sharp laugh. Yes, gas stations.
Children buy this after school.
For a nickel. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Lena started to laugh. Not happy laughter, but the kind that sounds like breaking glass. We traded coats for flour, she gasped.
My mother sold her wedding ring for coffee.
Anna gripped the edge of her bunk. And here, Greta finished it for her. And here chocolate is pocket change. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was full and of realization, of humiliation, of awe. The lies they'd swallowed for years, about American weakness, about luxury and corruption, started to crumble, piece by piece, like the foil in their hands. Anna stared at her chocolate again. A simple bar of candy had just rewritten everything she'd been told. Lena whispered, "They said the Americans were mongrels. That comfort made them soft." Greta snorted softly. Soft? They fought 2 wars and still had enough sugar to send candy to prisoners. She bit off another piece, chewed slowly. They didn't just win with guns. They won with plenty. Anna nodded. They had so much that even after war they still gave it away. For a while no one spoke. The only sound was foil crinkling and quiet breaths. Then Greta said, "Do you know what this means?" Anna wiped her cheeks. "It means we never had a chance." Greta looked down at the half-eaten chocolate bar. "We lost before the first bomb fell," she said quietly. "You can't win against a country that fights wars and still has candy bars in every store." Outside, the Texas wind rattled the tin roof. Somewhere in the distance, a radio played Bing Crosby singing, "I'll Be Home for Christmas." Anna looked toward the sound, her throat tight. "We were told they were starving too," she whispered. "That everyone was rationing." Greta shook her head. "They were never starving, Anna. Not once." The truth sat heavy in the air, darker and sweeter than the chocolate itself. That night, Anna couldn't sleep. She lay awake, the empty foil wrapper folded neatly beside her pillow. Her stomach still felt warm from the sugar, her mind burning with questions. What else had they been wrong about? If the enemy could afford to give prisoners chocolate for Christmas, what kind of country had they really been fighting? She closed her eyes. The sweetness lingered on her tongue, turning bitter with thought. Greta's voice came from the bunk above, quiet and steady. "We lost to a country that never ran out of sugar." Anna didn't answer. She didn't have to. The first time Anna held a bottle of Coca-Cola, it felt heavier than she expected. Cold glass sweating against her palm, drops sliding down like dew. She didn't move at first. She just stared at the dark liquid inside, at the bubbles rising and breaking against the narrow neck of the bottle. They were standing inside the VFW hall in Bastrop, Texas, a local Christmas dance organized for the camp and the townspeople. Music floated from an unseen radio, Benny Goodman's clarinet winding between the clinks of cups and laughter. The floor smelled like shoe polish and sugar. A woman in a gingham dress, bright red, cheerful American, smiled at her. "You ever tried Coke, honey?" she asked. Her voice was warm as a blanket fresh from the sun. Anna hesitated, her gray prisoner's dress hanging stiff against her frame. "No, ma'am," the woman grinned, twisting the cap off with a hiss. "Then you're in for a treat." Anna brought it to her lips. The first sip burned, not bad but shocking. It fizzed up her nose and down her throat all at once. The sweetness hit next, almost violent in its intensity. She coughed. The woman laughed, not unkindly. "Strong stuff, huh? My kids drink it warm. I say cold's better." Anna nodded, eyes watering. "It is different." Across the room, Greta watched her with a half smile, arms crossed, while Lena danced awkwardly with a young American soldier who was trying too hard to lead. Anna took another sip, slower this time. The flavor spread on caramel, sugar, something electric. It was impossible to describe. In Berlin before the war, her father had once brought home a single bottle of Coca-Cola. It had been Christmas 1937. The entire family had shared it in teacups like wine at communion, and now here it was again. Not rare, not sacred, just normal. Anna turned to the American woman. "How much this cost?" The woman tilted her head, surprised. "That? A nickel, I think." "You can get one at any drugstore." "A nickel," Anna repeated. The word felt foreign in her mouth. The woman smiled. "Yeah, kids buy 'em after school. It's kinda our national drink." Anna's fingers tightened around the bottle. Her mind started to spin. In Germany, people had traded shoes for bread, rings for butter. Children had sucked on sugar beets to remember what sweetness tasted like. And here kids bought Coca-Cola between homework and dinner. The math didn't add up. It wasn't supposed to. She took another sip, the fizz making her chest ache. Greta appeared beside her, holding a paper plate with a slice of pecan pie. "You like it?" she asked. Anna nodded faintly. "It cost 5 cents, Greta's jaw tensed. "For that?" Yes, she said children buy it. At gas stations. Greta looked around the hall, at the decorations, the food, the laughter, as if the whole scene might collapse under the weight of her disbelief. They said America was weak, she whispered. They said luxury made them soft. Anna gestured at the crowd. Do they look soft to you? Greta didn't answer. She took a forkful of pie, chewed slowly and closed her eyes. Sweet, she murmured. So sweet it hurts. Near the punch bowl, Lena was talking to a Texan man with a VFW pin. He asked if they were settling in all right, if the food was good. Lena smiled politely, her English careful. He offered her another Coke. Got plenty, he said. That phrase again. Got plenty. The man scratched his chin. Coca-Cola plant's about 40 miles from here. Temple, I think. Runs 3 shifts. Trucks go out every morning. Every town's got a delivery. Heck, even the boys overseas had Coke. We shipped it right to the front lines. Lena's face froze. In war? She asked. Sure, he said, shrugging. Keeps morale up. Anna caught Greta's eye. The realization hit them both at the same time. Germany couldn't even keep bread on shelves, and America was bottling soda for soldiers in battle zones. Anna stared down at the bottle in her hand. Her reflection curved across the glass. We lost to this, she whispered. Greta frowned. To sugar water? Anna shook her head. To what it means. Greta looked confused. Anna lifted the bottle slightly. Abundance, she said softly. Confidence. They built a world where this is ordinary. Greta didn't reply. She didn't have to. Anna took another sip, slower now. The taste had shifted. It wasn't just sweet anymore, and it was sharp, metallic, alive. She could feel the caffeine racing through her pulse syncing with the rhythm of the swing music. On the dance floor, American couples twirled under the yellow light. Their dresses flared, their shoes clicked. Nylon stockings shimmered, real nylon, the kind Germany had turned into parachutes. Here it was fashion again. Anna whispered, almost to herself. We were starving for meaning. They were living it. The woman in the gingham dress smiled as she passed. You like it, sugar? Anna smiled weakly. Yes. Too much. Later, when the dance ended, the POWs were loaded onto a truck for the ride back to Camp Swift. Anna sat between Greta and Lena, clutching her empty Coke bottle against her chest. The glass was still cool. Greta glanced at her. You look sick. I am, Anna said, laughing softly. Sugar sick, Lena chuckled beside her. Good sickness, Anna nodded. I want to be sick like this every day. They rode through the dark, headlights cutting across the Texas plain. In the distance, the small towns glowed with neon signs and gas station lights, each one selling what, to them, looked like bottled paradise. Anna leaned her head against the truck's cold metal wall. We thought they were our enemy, she murmured. But maybe they were our future. No one answered. The truck rattled on. When they reached camp, Anna tucked the empty bottle beneath her bunk pillow. The glass was warm now. The Texas winter didn't bite like the one back home, but the morning still came cold and gray. The barracks smelled of metal, soap, and wood smoke from the kitchens. Anna sat by the small window holding a stack of medical files. Her glasses, bent, twisted, and wired at the bridge, kept sliding down her nose. Every few minutes she pushed them back up inside. She'd been assigned to help organize hospital records for the camp infirmary. A quiet, almost boring task. The man who ran the office was Corporal Jacob Winter, an American medic with dark hair and the kind of tired eyes you get from seeing too much. He was Jewish, something that still made Anna's stomach knot with guilt she didn't have words for. Jacob sat behind an old typewriter, punching keys one after another, click, clack, ding. The sound filled the room like a heartbeat. Anna squinted at the faded German handwriting on one of the reports, trying to read. The words blurred. Jacob looked up. Those things even working? Anna blinked. The glasses? Not really. He studied the wire looped around the cracked bridge. What's that made of? A paperclip, she said simply. Berlin design, he smiled faintly. Innovative. I learned to make do. I bet you did. They worked in silence for a while, the air heavy with the smell of ink and old paper. Finally, Anna dropped one of the files. It scattered like a deck of cards. Damn, she muttered under her breath, then froze. Cursing still felt like a dangerous luxury. Jacob stood, crouched, and helped her gather the pages. You can take a break, you know. I prefer to keep busy. He nodded. Yeah, I know that feeling. When he stood, he glanced again at her glasses. Those are going to cut your face open if you're not careful. They've survived worse, she said. Still, he said. And that was that. The next day, he didn't show up for most of the morning. Anna assumed he'd been reassigned. She tried to work without the glasses, but the letters turned to fog. She rubbed her temples and fought the frustration clawing at her chest. By noon, the door opened. Jacob walked in, wind in his hair, a small brown case in his hand. He set it on her desk. For you. Anna frowned. What is it? Open it. Her fingers trembled as she unlatched the case. Inside, nestled in a velvet lining, sat a pair of glasses. Real ones. Metal frames, whole lenses, smooth as if they'd never known war. I don't understand, she whispered. I drove to Austin yesterday, he said, leaning on the desk. Had 'em made. I got your prescription from your intake file. You went to Austin? He shrugged like it was nothing. It's only an hour's drive. She blinked, the words catching in her throat. Why? He smiled slightly. Can't file papers if you can't see? Simple as that. I am a prisoner, she said, as if reminding him. War's over, he said gently. You're just a person who needs glasses. Anna's voice cracked. You paid for them? Yeah, he said. Wasn't much. She lifted the glasses out carefully like they might shatter. The metal was cold, light. When she put them on, the world came into focus so sharply it almost hurt. She could see every thread in the curtains, every word on the page in front of her, even the faint lines of exhaustion around Jacob's eyes. They fit, she whispered. He nodded. Good. Anna blinked fast, her throat tightening. No one has done something like this for me. Not in years. Jacob looked away, pretending to adjust his papers. Guess you've been around the wrong people. She laughed softly and it startled her. Maybe. He went back to typing, pretending the moment wasn't as big as it was. Anna tried to return to her files, but her vision kept swimming. Not from the lenses, but from tears she couldn't blink away. He glanced up. They hurt? I can take them back, get them adjusted. No, she said quickly, wiping her face. They're perfect. Then why are you crying? Anna hesitated. How could she explain that kindness after years of cruelty? Felt heavier than any punishment. That for 3 years every favor had come with a price, every smile with a lie. That simple generosity was so foreign it broke her heart. Because they work, she said quietly. Jacob didn't press her. He just nodded. Good. Later that afternoon, when the sun slanted low across the desk, he set down 2 sandwiches wrapped in wax paper. Lunch, Anna unwrapped hers and stared. White bread, thick brown paste. She sniffed it. What is this? Peanut butter. She took a tentative bite and instantly grimaced. It tastes like construction material. Jacob burst out laughing, loud and honest. Yeah, a lot of people say that. She chewed stubbornly. It's awful. Then don't eat it. I will, she said, taking another bite. You made it. He watched her amused. You Germans are strange. Not strange, she said, her mouth full. Just grateful. After work, she walked back to the barracks with the new glasses still perched on her nose. The other women noticed immediately. Greta raised an eyebrow. New? Anna nodded. Where from? Corporal Winter. Greta smirked. He's kind. He is. Impossible, Anna muttered. That night, lying in her bunk, Anna couldn't sleep. She kept touching the frames, feeling the smooth metal under her fingertips. He'd driven an hour for her, paid for them, expected nothing in return. It wasn't just about seeing clearly. It was about seeing differently. For the first time since the war began, Anna realized she wasn't being looked down on. She was being seen, and that changed everything. The days in Camp Swift began to blur, file after file, sunrise after sunrise. But for Anna, something had shifted. The world no longer looked dull or distant through cracked glass. Everything was sharp now. The grain in the wood of her desk, the dust motes floating in the afternoon sun, even the faint crease in Jacob's smile when he tried not to laugh. Every morning, he'd bring coffee in 2 tin cups, the kind soldiers used in the field. It was always bitter and far too strong, but it felt like ritual. 2 enemies sharing something human. Sometimes they talked about nothing. The weather, the noise from the baseball games outside, a song playing faintly on someone's radio. But the silence between them wasn't awkward anymore. It was comfortable. One afternoon, Jacob showed up with something new, a small, colorful stack of thin paper books. "For your English," he said, sliding them across the table. "These might help." Anna turned the first one over. The cover showed a man in blue tights and a red cape, fists on hips, cape flapping in an invisible breeze. Superman. She raised an eyebrow. "A man who flies?" Jacob chuckled. "He's not real, just a story." She flipped through the pages, frowning at the bright colors and bold lines. "Why an alien?" she asked. "Why not American soldier?" "He is American," Jacob said. "He landed here as a baby. Grew up in Kansas. Works hard, helps people, follows his own rules. He could do anything, but he chooses to be good." Anna's brow furrowed. "Chooses?" "Yeah," Jacob said, leaning back. "No one makes him, he just decides." Anna studied the picture again. Superman catching a falling plane, smiling, cape fluttering behind him. "That's very American," she murmured. Jacob smiled. "Guess it is." She spent that night reading by flashlight under her blanket. The words were simple enough, but what struck her wasn't the story. It was the idea. A man powerful enough to crush cities choosing kindness. It didn't sound like propaganda. It sounded like a promise. The next day, Jacob caught her reading again during lunch. "You like it?" "I think he is ridiculous," she said, smiling slightly. "Ridiculous good or ridiculous bad?" "Both," she paused. "He reminds me of you." Jacob blinked. "What?" "I don't wear capes." "No," she said softly. "But you fix things that are broken." He laughed awkwardly and his ears went red. "You're giving me too much credit." She shook her head. "You give me sight food stories." "That is a lot of credit," he didn't reply, just went back to typing, pretending his heart wasn't beating faster. Later that week, he brought lunch again, another peanut butter sandwich. Anna eyed it with suspicion. "This again? You didn't finish last time." "I did," she said defensively. "It tasted like glue, but I finished it." He grinned. "Good, then you're officially American." She wrinkled her nose, but took a bite anyway. "Still terrible." "Give it time," he said. "It grows on you." "Like mold?" He laughed so hard he nearly spilled his coffee. "Exactly like mold." Something loosened between them that day. The war didn't hang as heavy in the air. The silence wasn't about guilt anymore. It was about understanding. Sometimes they worked late, long after the other clerks had left. The room would go quiet except for the soft clack of Jacob's typewriter. Anna would hum a tune she half remembered from Berlin and he'd smile without looking up. "German song?" he'd ask. "Yes. My mother sang it when I was little. She must have had a good voice." "She did," Anna said, staring at her hands. "She used to sing while bread baked. You could smell the yeast through the hall." Jacob stopped typing. "You'll bake again," he said quietly. "When you go home." Anna looked at him. "You think of Germany as home?" He hesitated. "Maybe not for me. But for you, yeah." She looked down. "I don't know anymore." That night in the barracks, Greta teased her mercilessly. "You smile at cabinets now," she said, brushing her hair. "I do not." "You do," Greta insisted. "Every time someone says Corporal Winter." Anna blushed. "We are colleagues," Greta smirked. "Colleagues who eat glue sandwiches together?" Anna threw a pillow at her. "You're impossible." "Yes," Greta said, grinning. "But I'm not blind." The next morning, the sky was pale and sharp as glass. Jacob was already at his desk when Anna walked in. He looked up and smiled, that same quiet smile that said, "I'm glad you're here." "Morning," he said. "Morning," she replied, sitting down. He poured coffee, handed her a cup. She took it and their fingers brushed. It lasted half a second, not long enough for the world to notice, but long enough for her heart to skip. She sipped the bitter coffee, pretending it didn't shake her. As the day passed, they fell back into rhythm, the tapping keys, the scratching pens, the soft rustle of papers. But something had changed. It wasn't just routine anymore. It was connection. By afternoon, she caught him looking at her once, just long enough to make her look away. Outside, the sound of a radio drifted through the open window. Benny Goodman again, cheerful and bright. Anna smiled faintly. "They play this everywhere," Jacob shrugged. "It's good music. I like it," he grinned. "Then I'll bring more records tomorrow." She looked up. "You own records?" "Used to." Before the war. Her smile faded a little. You lost family? His jaw tightened. Yeah, I'm sorry, she said quietly. He nodded once. So am I. For a long time, neither spoke. Then Jacob reached over, tapping the stack of Superman comics. You know, he said softly, he never stays angry for long. The Texas sun burned high, turning the air thick with the smell of smoke and roasted meat. It was May 1946, the day Camp Swift was hosting its farewell barbecue. Long wooden tables stretched across the parade ground, stacked with food, whole hogs glistening over open fire pits, mountains of cornbread, tubs of sweet tea cold enough to fog the tin cups. The German women stood at a distance, uncertain, watching the families of soldiers gather around. The laughter, the music, the easy warmth of it all felt impossible. Anna's palms were damp. She still wore her gray dress, but she'd brushed her hair for the first time in weeks. Greta nudged her. You're staring, she whispered. I've never seen this much food, Anna murmured. Not even before the war. On the far side of the table, Sergeant Davis was serving plates like a preacher at communion. Jacob stood nearby, sleeves rolled up, helping the cooks carry trays. He caught Anna's eye for a second, a look that said, "Come on, it's okay." She hesitated, then stepped forward. The smell hit her first. Sweet smoke and spice, meat so tender it fell apart under its own weight. She reached for a plate, hands trembling slightly. Davis smiled. Don't be shy now, Miss Anna, we got plenty. That phrase again. We got plenty. It still hit her every time like a small, merciful punch. She took her plate and sat with Greta and a few of the other women under the shade of a pecan tree. For a long while, no one spoke. They just ate quietly, reverently. The sound of chewing and the crackle of barbecue fires filled the space where conversation used to live. Then Lena, the young radar operator from Hamburg, dropped her fork. It clanged against the plate like a gunshot. She stared at the food, her eyes filling. Do you realize what this means? She whispered. Greta frowned. What? Lena looked at the tables, the endless trays, the children running with second helpings. They can feed this to everyone. Not just officers, not soldiers, everyone. Anna swallowed hard, setting down her fork. Around them, American families laughed, eating without guilt or ration cards or fear. Something inside her cracked. Without planning to, Anna stood. The motion pulled every eye toward her. Guards, townsfolk, even the cooks. Her knees felt weak, but she didn't sit down. She cleared her throat. I need to say something. The laughter died slowly, like someone turning down a radio. Greta's face went pale. Anna, she hissed. Don't, but Anna's voice rose, stronger than she felt. We came here believing lies. The crowd froze. Even the children stopped moving. Anna held her plate up slightly, her accent thick, her English careful but clear. We were told Americans are weak. That comfort makes you lazy. That your country is mixed and soft. She paused, glancing around. But look at you. No one spoke. The wind shifted, carrying the smell of smoke and sweet tea. You build cities, fly planes, feed your enemies, she said, her voice shaking now. You fight a war across the world, and still you have enough to give us meatballs and Coca-Cola. A few heads turned. Someone whispered. In Germany, she continued, we traded rings for bread, burned furniture for heat, ate rats when there was nothing left, and we were told you were starving too, that we suffered for honor, for victory. Her throat tightened, but it was lies. We starved for nothing. Jacob stood near the punch bowl, frozen, his face unreadable. Anna's voice softened. One of your soldiers gave me glasses. Not because I earned them. Not because he had to, but because he thought I should see. She touched the frames lightly, and now I do. She looked around the crowd, at Davis, at Jacob, at the other women watching with wide, tearful eyes. I see that kindness is strength, that mercy is power, and that we were wrong about everything. Her voice broke. We lost before the first bomb fell, because you fought with something we never understood. Someone coughed. A child's voice whispered, Mama? The world seemed to hold its breath. Then Sergeant Davis clapped once. The sound was sharp, heavy. He clapped again. Slowly others followed, hesitant at first, then louder. Within seconds, the whole field was filled with the sound. Anna stood frozen, tears streaking her cheeks. Jacob's hands came together last. His applause slower, softer. Eyes fixed on her with something more than pride. Greta rose beside her, not clapping, just standing. a silent witness. Around them, the other women wiped their faces. Lena covered her mouth, shaking. The applause rolled over them like thunder echoing against the open Texas sky. Anna sat down, trembling. Davis passed by, giving her a small nod. "That took guts," he said quietly. She exhaled a shaky laugh. "Maybe I learned from you." Jacob approached after the crowd started to disperse. His expression was unreadable, eyes dark with emotion. He stopped in front of her just far enough to keep propriety. "You shouldn't have done that," he whispered. "I had to," she said simply. He looked down, smiling faintly. "You just told 100 Texans you want to stay here." Her heart kicked. The weeks after the barbecue passed like a dream. Papers shuffled, trunks packed, names read aloud at dawn. One by one, the women were processed for transport, back to the ruins of a country they no longer recognized. Anna stood by the barracks window, her suitcase at her feet, watching the trucks load. Greta was leaving first, bound for Nuremberg to work as a translator. Lena followed soon after, headed for Hamburg. Each woman carried something from the camp: a folded napkin, a photograph, a wrapper, a Coke bottle. Small things, but proof that kindness could exist even in a place built for prisoners. Jacob found her by the doorway, holding a thin stack of papers. "Your file's done," he said quietly. She nodded. "So that's it?" "Not yet." He hesitated. "I filed something else." "A request." Her heart stuttered. "A request for what?" He handed her a small envelope. The American seal was stamped across the top. "A fiancé visa," he said. She blinked. "A what?" He smiled nervously. "I figured it was worth trying." The words hit her harder than the first bite of real food months ago. She stared at the papers like they might vanish. "You would do that?" "For me?" Jacob shrugged. "You gave a speech that stopped a barbecue dead in its tracks. Figured the least I could do was make sure you didn't have to go back to rubble." Tears welled in her eyes before she could stop them. "And if they say no?" He gave a small lopsided grin. "Then I'll appeal. I've filled out tougher paperwork." Anna laughed through the tears. "You really are impossible." "Yeah," he said softly. "But I'm not leaving you behind." The paperwork crawled through the system like everything else in post-war America, but by June, approval came through. Greta hugged her tight before boarding her own truck. "Write to me," she said. "And if you ever bake bread again, save me a slice." Anna smiled. "I'll send a loaf." Lena pressed her Coke bottle into Anna's hands. "Keep this," she said. "You'll need a reminder." "Of what?" Lena smiled faintly. "That the future can taste sweet." When their trucks rolled away, the camp felt hollow. Anna stayed behind, waiting for final clearance, the barracks too quiet. The next day, Jacob came for her. "Ready?" She nodded. They left Texas for New York by train, watching the plains give way to cities. Jacob talked about Brooklyn, the grocery his mother once ran, the way summers smelled like roasted peanuts and sea air. Anna listened, memorizing every word. They were married that September at Brooklyn City Hall. No guests, no music, just a judge, a signed paper, and two people who had decided to rebuild from the ashes. Jacob wore his uniform. Anna wore a borrowed dress. When the judge asked if she took this man, she looked through her glasses, the ones Jacob had bought her, and said, "Yes." That night they walked along the East River, the city lights reflecting off the water. Anna held his hand and whispered, "I still don't like peanut butter." He laughed. "You don't have to." "But I will eat it," she said. "Because you made it." He squeezed her hand. "Deal." Years passed. They bought a small brownstone in Flatbush. Jacob became an accountant. Anna worked as a school nurse. She bandaged scraped knees and handed out aspirin, always gentle, always patient. The children loved her. They called her Nurse Keller long after she married. Every December 12th, she made spaghetti and meatballs for dinner. 4 meatballs per person, no more, no less. The sauce simmered for hours, rich and red, filling the house with warmth. Jacob never asked why she always cried while stirring the pot. He already knew. They had 3 children, Michael, Sarah, and Rebecca. None of them grew up hungry. None of them understood why their mother kept an old foil wrapper folded inside a locket, or why she cried whenever someone mentioned Texas. When Jacob passed in 1989, Anna stayed in that same house. She gardened, read books, and watched her grandchildren chase each other in the yard. Sometimes she'd find herself staring at the pantry, at the shelves lined with sugar, flour, coffee, and smile. When she died in 2003, age 86, her daughter found a small box among her things. Inside were her glasses, polished and perfect. A Coke bottle, its glass still faintly green. And a Hershey's wrapper folded neatly in half. On a scrap of paper beneath it, in her steady handwriting, she had written, "They said the war ended in 1945, but for me, it ended the day I learned mercy could feed the world." Camp Swift closed in 1946. The old mess hall was turned into a community center. Every December, the town still hosts a spaghetti dinner fundraiser. No one remembers how the tradition started, but locals swear the sauce always tastes just a little too perfect. If you stand there quietly in the echo of that old hall, you can almost hear it, the laughter, the crying, the sound of forks tapping tin trays. The moment abundance defeated ideology. 4 meatballs, 1 nickel's worth of chocolate, a pair of glasses, and a choice to be kind. That's how you win wars that never needed guns. If this story moved you, if it reminded you that humanity can survive even the darkest wars, share it. Because history isn't just about who won, it's about who learned to forgive.